Hey everyone, it's Morgan and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking all about inking and different ways to ink. But first, I want to sincerely apologize for being gone for almost, or maybe a little over 4 months, which is crazy. But it was the end of my school year and I had a couple things going on, a little bit of troubles, and I just really was at a low point, you know? But everything's fine, and here I am, I'm back, and the whole time I was gone, I felt really guilty about not being here. I was really upset, actually, because I was watching my channel grow, and it was making me so happy to see all these new subscribers, but there was nothing new going up, and no matter what I did, I just didn't do that. But what's important is that I'm here now, and once again, I've said it before, I'm really not going anywhere. So, here we go. And now that I've bored the life out of everyone, we're going to jump right back into it. So as usual, I started off with the sketch. For this drawing, it was a flower which was coming out of a heart inside of a small glass bottle. For this drawing, I used a reference photo that was uploaded on Pinterest by Natalia Camacho. I'm just going to really hope I said that right, even though I totally didn't, and I'm really sorry about that. But anyways, I chose this drawing for this video because I really liked how there were so many different styles and like methods of inking used all in one drawing. And I thought that it really flowed together nicely and the lines looked so smooth and beautiful. And I thought that it was a really good example to explain the inner workings of inking. So while I'm still sketching this drawing, I just want to give a quick reminder that when you're sketching something that you plan on inking, you should always make sure that you sketch it pretty light, because I always erase all of the pencil away from my ink drawings after I've laid the ink on top of the pencil. In other words, in between every step of my inking process, I'll erase the pencil underneath so I can see where I've laid ink down, I can see it more clearly, and it makes the drawing look a lot more clean. So now that we finally got to the inking part, I get to introduce what I'm using to ink today. If you don't know, there's all different kinds of things you can ink with. There's all different brands of pens you can use. You can just use straight black ink from a bottle. You can use a dip brush pen, which is something that's a little older, but I still think it's pretty cool, and I used one recently, and I liked it too. Well, anyway, I'm using Copic Multiliners. I've also used Pigma Microns, which are basically the same thing for anyone who was wondering. They have very similar sizes, but for this drawing, I only used size 0.03, 0.05, and 0.1. In that order, too. So the smallest ones were obviously for the tiniest details, and the larger ones were to thicken up the lines in some places, make sure the line weight varied a lot. And line weight is something that is extremely important in drawings. Line weight is adding more ink or using different size pens to make it look like you added more ink to areas of your drawing to make those lines look thicker than others. It's also using very thin pens to make certain lines very small for your small details. Line weight is something that is extremely pleasing to the eye, so it's very important to have in your drawings if you want other people to like looking at your drawings. Maybe that'd be nice. However, you have to be very careful to control your pens while you're adding your line weight, because it's very easy to slip up a little and then make your line too thick in one spot or too thin in another. So just make sure that you're being careful and keep your hand really steady, because it's very easy to mess up in ink. And with ink, there's no going back. So now that the outside of the bottle has been completely inked and the heart has been outlined, we move on to the inside of the heart. And this brings us to our first method of inking. And I'm actually kind of angry that this is the first one I'm going to talk about, because this one annoys me so much. And for anyone that knows what I'm about to say, they're probably thinking in their head like, oh my god, here she goes. Because yes, this one is very annoying, but very interesting and actually very useful, because I think it looks beautiful. So enough with the teasers. This first method is stippling. Stippling, if you haven't been able to figure out what I'm doing yet, it is a bunch of very small dots that come off of the very tip of your pen. So as you can probably see, I'm trying to hold my pen as straight up and down as possible so that I hit the very top and make the tiniest little dots. Stippling is a very effective method of inking that you can make shadows with, because one of the things about inking is that no one knows how to blend with their ink, and then they're not sure how to take their drawings to the next level. Because inking is something that, it's a skill that you pick up over time. You can't just wake up one day and, oh my god, you're the world's like master with ink, because it takes a while to get right. Because inking it's really difficult to mess up. It's just black ink. Once like I said before, once you mess up, you can't fix it. So inking takes a while to master, and I can't even say that I'm a master yet, because everyone has room to improve. So with stippling, the shading works by clustering a bunch of dots together where you want your shadows to be. In the darker parts of the hearts, I would put a bunch of dots to make it look much darker and make more ink in one section. And then to your eye, that looks like shadows, because at first glance, you're not going to see a bunch of tiny dots. You see like a gradient, you see a shadow kind of thing. And I think that the product of stippling is actually really nice. I really like this. But the annoying part is that it takes absolutely forever to do. And if you want it to look good, you really got to take your time and do it right. Because if you rush it, you're going to end up making a bunch of little lines on accident instead of dots, and the whole thing becomes a nightmare. So, like, here's my advice. Take it from me. Take your time with stippling. So the next thing we move on to is the bubbles surrounding the heart inside of the bottle. For the bubbles, I used the .03, which was my smallest pen, because the bubbles were supposed to be the thinnest little lines. And for the bigger size bubbles, I would just draw a couple of horizontal lines on one side of the bubble, the left side of the bubbles, to make it look like a little bit of shading. Just enough to make it look good to your eyes, but not enough for it to be overwhelming. Then, as I moved on to the plants around the heart, coming out of the heart, I did pretty much the same thing. I used little lines to shade, which is actually called hatching, which is using lines to shade, like I just said. But this time, my lines were vertical. They were going up. They were going with the flow of the leaves. I did this all the way up to the flower, where I used hatching up and down the petals of the flower. And hatching is our second method of inking for this video. Hatching takes a lot less time than stippling, but it requires just as much patience and just as much, delicacy with your hands, because once again, it's very, very thin lines instead of thin dots that you need to let flow out of your hand. Because if you kind of force a line from your hand, it's going to sound strange, but if you kind of like jerk your hand too much, it comes out like a forced line instead of a line that's flowing with the petals of the flower. Because flowers are very dainty, delicate things that look very pleasing. And if they have these jagged little lines coming out of them as a form of shading, it's just not going to look right. So in order to keep your shading for this flower looking normal, correct, you're going to want to keep your hand nice and light on your page and just flick with your hand instead of any awkward motion. Once I'm finished with the hatching in the petals and the stem, I actually go back to stippling for the center of the flower. I use more dots on the left side to show shadow there, and then spread the dots out more on the right side to make it look lighter. Thankfully, this time the stippling didn't take too long because the area was much smaller. Because trust me, if I was stippling for another large amount of time, I probably would have lost my mind. But like I said, I still think it's worth it. I'm still happy I did it, so. After we finish our stippling, it's time to run my eraser across the entire drawing and pick up any pencil that was left underneath my ink. This is my final touches going on to the drawing because, hey, guess what? We're done. I erase all of the pencil that I can see, and I even try to pick up pencil that I can't see. I run the eraser over everything, and then I look at it with a better, closer eye just to make sure I get as much as I can, because I can't tell you how much it annoys me when I see pencil through it. And I can't tell you how much it annoys me when I realize, right about now, that I sketched too hard in some places. I just press my hand down too much, and it won't pick up with my eraser, and it annoys me. Don't make the same mistakes I do, please. So, as I put the pen down and we finish our drawing, I'm just going to show a nice finished picture, a nice clear finished picture. Yes, that clip was super blurry. I'm super sorry. I don't know how that happened. So anyway, thank you guys all so much for watching this video. I really hope you learned a thing or two about inking, and I'll see you next time.